Hey, y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic One-on-One with the Waterboy. It's good to be with you guys. This weekly interview session that we've been having with one-on-one guests, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about this week's guest that we have coming on. I've known him just a little bit, and, I'll introduce you to him in a second. Steve Dace actually introduced me to this guest that we're about to have on, but before that, I want to remind you guys, we have a water break summit actually happening here in Moscow, Idaho. Would love for you guys to come to Moscow, Idaho, and participate actually in our water break summit. The water break summit is basically a Jesus is Lord over faith, health and fitness, and it's March 27th and 28th. And we'd love you guys to come in town. We got Ben Greenfield speaking, Joel Green. If you don't know who Joel Green, he's actually coming on the water break show with my wife here this coming week. And so you get a good chance to hear him again. He's been on our show before, but he's speaking. Dr. Tabitha's speaking, and another gentleman who I'm learning about is Dr. Anthony Balduzzi. He's kind of runs the Fit Father Project, so he's coming to speak too. So got a full agenda. March 27th, 28th. Go to waterbreak.tv to sign up. Again, Jesus Lord over faith and fitness, over health and fitness, and we really need to kind of reclaim and take back that industry and that and what's going on over there, because a lot is going on that needs to be taken back for Christ. All right. Secondly, this is my last thing before I get you to introduce you to my guest. We're very fond of saying Jesus is Lord over everything, right? Politics, health, water break, and especially the business world, especially the workplace. More than ever, we need strong Christians running their businesses with conviction, with courageous conviction. That's exactly what Business Makers Network is all about. A place for Christian business leaders to refuse to compartmentalize. Oh man, Toby should be reading this ad right now. Our faith. And this year, we're hosting our first ever national conference, Risk, Build, Grow, the Business of Work and the Wisdom of Making Money, on April 7th, 8th, and 9th at Lake Point Church in Dallas, Texas. You'll hear from speakers like Charlton Haupt, Eric Reed, if you don't know who Eric Reed is, Brett Craig. Brett Craig is one of the wonders, I think, right now in telling stories through video for marketing purposes. He's fantastic. C.R. Wiley, me, of course, David Reese, a number of faithful business leaders are coming to speak at the conference. Whether you're launching a startup, leading in corporate America, or trying to align your career with your faith, this conference will change the way you maximize your impact, apply Christ fully to your work. And so join the movement of courageous Christian business leaders for the good of our people and the glory of God. April 7th, 8th, and 9th in Dallas, Texas. Register now at businessmakers.network. Businessmakers.network. Register there. This is one business conference you don't want to miss. So finally, let's get to our guest. Very excited to introduce our guest today. I have Adam Steen coming on. Adam Steen, S-T-E-E-N, it's my Texas accent there, was raised in Indianola. Indianola. Whoa. That on the screen threw me off. Where faith, hard work, and service shape his life. A former college basketball player drafted by the Philadelphia Phillies. Hey, how about Philadelphia Phillies?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Baseball, college baseball into
I said
drafted by the Phillies.
I played college basketball, so I was immediately going to identify with you and baseball, not basketball.
I can still shoot.
And so he returned home later to build a business and strengthen Iowa's economy. Adam later served as the director of Iowa Department of Administrative Services, cutting waste and delivering results. He and his wife, Casey, are raising 2 sons, and their family's journey has deepened his faith and resolve to serve Iowa families. Adam, thank you so much. Getting out of your busy schedule. You're on the campaign trail for coming on CrossPolitic One-on-One with me. Thank you.
Gabe, thank you. I appreciate this opportunity very much. Happy to do it. Happy to be here. Honored to be here.
So when I see that you formerly worked with administrative services and all that stuff, all I hear is bureaucracy, and stuff that I just want to cut.
Yes.
What did you do there, and why does it kind of even maybe lend to you now running for governor?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. To give a little bit of background, before I joined the Department of Administrative Services as their director, I spent 18 years in the private sector. So I was a business owner for 18 years with common sense business principles, running my businesses, running and helping others run their businesses. So when I jumped into direct administrative services for the state, all I saw immediately was bureaucracy. It's just red
Like
tape
me.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Layers and layers of decision making, weird policies that have been instituted since the 70s. And so I went in, and thankfully I inherited a phenomenal team. My leadership team, they wanted to cut red tape. They wanted to find waste, fraud, abuse. And so we set out to take a very sort of business mindset approach to how we ran state government. And we dominated. We had a phenomenal department. We identified waste. We identified fraud, and we fixed things. We ran some of the largest efficiency projects in the state of Iowa's governmental history, and we did it very, very well for the governor. And now I want to do that on a much higher level, a much deeper level, and that's why one reason I'm running for governor of the state of Iowa right now.
So it sounds like you were born and raised in Iowa, grew up in Iowa.
Yes.
And why do you think Iowa is so important kind of in the national framework of our nation, and especially everything that's going on right now?
Yeah, well, from a Republican side, we're the first in the nation caucus for the presidential race. And Iowa, at its core, we're an ag state, we're an insurance state, we're a manufacturing state. We sort of epitomize what I feel is the heart of the United States of America. And I think that it's just absolutely critical right now, especially with the country at a tipping point. I mean, obviously, we've got President Trump in office right now, making big, bold decisions. And where Iowa sits on the map, just from an industrial perspective, from an ag perspective, and from a locational perspective, it's a very important state. And we need to ensure that the state of Iowa remains free and the culture remains protected for such a time as this. We're in a very important spot in this country. And Iowa, I believe, is being viewed as a catalyst to continue to push forward bold, conservative, faith-based principles.
This might be a mean question. I'm not trying to be mean. Maybe I am. I don't know. I grew up in Texas, and in Texas, I mean, the politicians there, they shake your hand and make you feel like you're their best friend. The Southern hospitality, the Southern, politician, and so over time, what it's actually done to me, now I live in Idaho, but I spent almost half my life in Texas, is that I've actually just gained a pretty significant distrust for all politicians. Because I mean, Texas is not as running as well as everyone thinks it is, and how it's being branded, and Governor Abbott is what the citizens keep voting for. But let me maybe illustrate the question this way. I live in a liberal city here in Moscow, Idaho, so I'm a conservative state, but blue dot. And my city council, I mean, they're ridiculous. I mean, they're all liberal, and it's just all the liberal expectations that you have there, and the silliness of a small town city council is all there. But I'm also working on this project. I do consulting and some strategic consulting on other projects where I'm not going to name the state, but it's a conservative state and it's a local conservative council. And I've actually never seen a grosser form of city politics, and it's coming from Republicans. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I'm not going to go into any details right now, but it's everyone. If you heard the details, you'd just be like flabbergasted. And so part of, and right now, part of, Republicans kind of have the upper hand a little bit right now because they're dealing with immigration. They're dealing with, they're doing some good things that, they're getting rid of trans ideology, and the Democrats are supporting it. There's just this weird moral upper hand that the Republicans have sort of right now. Mm-hmm. But in the end, like, I think the Republican Party is so corrupt and so hard to trust, because they constantly say one thing and do another. And I would say even Trump at some level has done that, especially the Epstein files. He's like, no, you guys don't need to care about it or whatever. And we forced the vote in Congress and to get it released. And so I just, I'm just make this personal. Yeah. Why should voters trust you in the midst of kind of this Republican gear that keeps churning in a way that in a lot of ways it just hasn't been the best for the people either? Now, I do think Trump's done some things that's better than most presidents, or better than most Republicans have, and all that stuff. But I just look at things. I'm very critical of my own party, and my own party doesn't feel like they're wanting to talk about their own problems. They'd rather talk about Democrat problems and stuff like that. Kind of a wild question there for you, but please take it from here.
No, I appreciate that. And I've got a route that I'd like to go on that, and it may spur some other questions along that same line.
Please.
And I guess, if I were to say, answer the question of why should people trust me, I would go back to a couple things. And one, this is the first time that I've run for political office. So I wear certainly with a badge of honor that I am a business guy. I certainly wear with a badge of honor that I've called myself a faith guy, a Jesus guy. I'm credentialed as a minister in the Assemblies of God network. I've got a very firm faith foundation with a very strong business resume. Then layered on top of that is my operational experience within state government. So I'm very proud to say that I'm not a politician. Of course, I'm running for governor to become a politician, but I've got a firm faith foundation. I know my worldview. I can defend my worldview. I can defend my faith. And I make consistent decisions from a business perspective and a governmental operational perspective as well that can be proven. And so if people wanted to go, okay, what is your voting record, Adam? Well, I don't have a political voting record. They could say, well, then what is your business background? And I could point them to projects that I've worked on in the business world. One of them is the turkey fan. It's a turkey decoy a friend of mine invented, and I launched that product into the stores at every major outdoor retailer across the country. So I've got business credibility. From an operational perspective, I could say, okay, I have a 5-year track record of stewarding the taxpayer dollar from a transparent and accountability perspective. So some of the largest efficiency projects that the state of Iowa has done, I did that with my team. Just one of them was the Iowa Doge Group. I was part of aligning 37 agencies in state government down to 16. So I was able to take 37 agencies, and my team put the infrastructure together to cram that down to 16 agencies. And what we found was waste, was fraud, was abuse of taxpayer dollars in that process. And we fixed it. And before I resigned my position to jump into the race, which is another kind of maybe indicator of trust, is that I have no income coming in. I resigned my position to jump into this race. I had a wonderful job. I was very good at my job. I have 2 boys. I have a wife. We've got a home and an acreage. And I took a leap of faith. And I said, in conjunction with my wife, we have to jump in this race to preserve and protect the culture of Iowa, preserve and protect the freedom of Iowa. In my background in state government, I will put up on a big old billboard and say, these are the things that I've done for the taxpayer that no one else could do, and probably no one else was willing to do.
What do you think, given kind of current condition of our national politics and everything, what are the top 3? I haven't been to your website to read your top 3 or your 10 planks or whatever. What do they think are the top 3 most strategic things as governor you can do for Iowa that helps the citizens of Iowa, but also maybe creates a good example, or maybe helps even maybe the national politics kind of look at what you're doing and be like, oh my gosh, we need to change things too, like what Governor Adams doing?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. So I'm going to go probably 2 routes on that. I can go, I'll go maybe on the social side first. Iowa passed the heartbeat bill a few years ago, which is a 6-week abortion ban. I would be a life at conception candidate. So I would want to push that ball down the field, continue to get to a point where we're protecting life at conception. What I see when I travel around the state are the main issues being property rights, property taxes, and school choice. And so I'm always proactively bringing up the life issue as well to make sure that that's front and center. So that one, from my perspective on the social side, I would love Iowa to be a template and a shining light on the hill that other states can look at and go, from a social perspective, where do you guys sit? And I would want to be certainly at the life and conception side of things. From a policy perspective, I'll protect property rights. Absolutely. We will continue to look for lowering property taxes, but more importantly, we need to attack government spending, which will lead to one of my ideas I'll talk about here in a second. But government has a spending problem. The state government executive branch spends too much. School boards spend too much. City councils spend too much. County supervisors spend too much. So we need to attack the spend, absolutely. And from a school choice perspective, parents need the right, and their right needs to be protected to have their children taught how they want their kids to be taught. Now, we need to, I'll jump back to property tax, from a spend perspective. Right now, what I saw inside of state government, having operated the state for 5 years, I saw many areas of state government where we are spending money where we shouldn't be spending money. We have some contracts, corporate contracts that have been signed because a lobbyist was very good at doing their job. And I was able to see some of those things happen. I would love to get rid of those contracts because we don't need them. We have phenomenal state employees that could do the work of these consultants that are coming in. I also know for a fact that the state of Iowa has trained several certified project managers. So the state of Iowa would pay for certified project management classes for state employees, which I think is phenomenal. I had the opportunity to speak to the graduating classes of this program, but the one thing I said was, you guys are going to end up with CPM behind your name, certified project manager. So that's like having an MBA beside your name. But if you don't do anything with it, we've all just wasted our time. We've wasted our money. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to do with inside of state government day one is create a project management division with inside the executive branch so that we can take all of the efficiency projects we've laid out before I resigned and actually execute and get them done. We can take a project management business approach, common sense approach inside of state government that will clean up waste, it will clean up fraud, it will eliminate abuse, and then we can become a template from a project management perspective that school boards, city councils, and county supervisors can and should use as well to eliminate waste, to identify fraud, to get rid of abuse. I think we've got an ability to take a real business approach inside of state government right now.
Man, you made me think of two questions that I want to talk about. One about public schools and the other one about property taxes. But before I get there, I got one ad read here I need to get through, and it's actually talking about money. Dominion Wealth Strategists here. You listen to CrossPolitic, right? Because you care about seeing Christ's lordship over every area of life, including the civil realm. But establishing righteous laws in a just society requires resources. That's where Dominion Wealth Strategies comes in. They are not just here to help you survive in a broken system. They're here to help you reform it. Dominion Wealth, their mission is to equip Christians with financial strategies that align with biblical principles so that the Christian wealth can be built, protect, and use that wealth in furthering the kingdom of God. Budgeting, saving, debt management, insurance, legacy planning, and more. Dominion Wealth is about giving Christians the tools that it takes to take the Dominion mandate seriously. The push to establish righteous laws doesn't just need voices. It requires money, resources, businesses, and families committed to active multi-generational faithfulness and the empowering of individuals like you to give generously from a position of security and strength. Too many people are trying to pour from an empty cup, but Dominion will ensure that yours runneth over. Pretty good. Christ will reign and every knee will bow. Let's prepare for what the future together and build one of the means to make it happen. Book your free consultation at reformed.money today. That's reformed.money today. Thank you. And Living Heritage, one other plug here, Living Heritage. With Living Heritage homeschool curriculum, take your classical Christian education further up and further in, beyond the world of brute facts and mindless comprehension questions, and into the land of beautiful stories and inspiring ideas that teach not only the mind, but also the heart. If your children are to stand for Christ in a woke, hostile culture, they need more than a list of syllogisms, which only create men without chests. That's a C.S. Lewis quote, I think. We need to train and mature their loves. At Living Heritage, we do this through daily historically rooted worship to start the homeschool day and family-style learning centered around classic books, church history, and solid Reformed theology. All in K through 12, open and go daily plans. Nice. you too can have a joyful, consistent, restful homeschool days rooted in truth, cultivated in wonder, and growing in wisdom. Find out more at livingheritage.info. That's livingheritage.info. And actually get 10% off if you use the code CrossPolitic. Get 10% off. That's livingheritage.info. Check them out. Good people over there. So Adam, kind of the two questions. First, I'm sure I think this is probably a most American issue, although it's never played this way, that property taxes should be gotten rid of, kind of thing. It's the one tax that is, I actually really appreciate how Governor DeSantis has been talking about it. Is like, I buy a TV or I buy a car or whatever, and I don't keep paying taxes on it every month like I do in my house. Or it's the one tax where if it's connected to like your living, your home, and if and it so in one sense it communicates you don't really own your property, that kind of thing. Now I understand, I'm a realist too. Like, all right, if you get rid of property taxes, we got to make sure. And I as a Christian, I believe we should pay taxes. I think the Bible is very clear about that. I think we should pay very small amount of taxes. I think the Bible is very clear that we should pay under 10%. If you read 1 Samuel 8 and so forth, so under 10% should be, I think, where we're paying taxes. But the point is like, okay, let's say if we eliminate property taxes tomorrow, it'd cause budget problems and all this stuff, and so I think there's a way we need to do this rightly. But I don't even know where you're staying on property taxes. What are your thoughts on property taxes for Iowans, and kind of, if you come in from my view of things, if you think property taxes are in my view, it's they're wicked. They're wicked because they're taking away your property rights. But how do you? What's your answer to the property tax question and some of the debate that's actually starting to happen nationally?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate that question. To go kind of fundamentally, I believe that government exists for two reasons: to punish evil and condone good. Yeah. And I believe that over the course of the founding of this country, 250 years ago, we have let the government encroach into far too many areas of our lives, so much so that probably most of our property tax dollars, probably most of the tax that we pay, we don't really know where it's going. Mm-hmm. So I am absolutely for, number one, lowering property taxes, but number two, finding a way to get property taxes from being attached to people's property so they can actually own their property outright. In Iowa, for example, you could buy a car, but every year you're paying a tag fee on your license plate. So if you don't pay that tag fee, you're going to get fined. If you continue to not pay it, eventually you're going to lose your car, because you're not paying the tax for your car to drive around the state. So ultimately, you don't really own your car at the end of the day. You can have it paid off at the bank, but you'll never pay the government off. So what I have been doing from a property tax perspective is, one, waiting to see what the Iowa legislature comes up with this year. Now, that's the most political comment that I will ever make. But what they're talking about is capping property tax increases at 2%, which sounds fine and dandy. But my question back to them was, what are you doing to force school boards, city councils, and county supervisors to prove they need the 2% increase? Because if you cap it at 2%, they're just going to raise it 2%
every time. Yeah, right.
Every time. And then ultimately you're going to be in the same problem that you're in right now with far too high property taxes. At the other end, if you start to lower property taxes, what are you going to do to plus up the areas that we need to fund our schools, to fund our bus drivers, to fund our snowplow drivers? So I understand the issue. But what I saw when I ran the Department of Administrative Services for the state of Iowa, I oversaw 350 people directly, 20,000 organizationally, is every year the same budget was being put onto my desk, and we're just increasing it. And I said, time out. I want to know why we need the money that we're spending. So we zeroed out our budget. So zero-based budgeting, I am a huge fan of. And what we found when I made my team prove why we needed the money that we needed, we found over $500,000 in unnecessary spending on subscription services and things that we weren't using anymore that we could eliminate. Now, that's just one department in the executive branch. Spread that out across every city, county, and school across the state of Iowa. And if we if we instituted a zero-based budgeting process where you don't get the same budget You don't just get to plug and play the same budget. You have to sit down and you have to prove why you need the money that you have and where that money is going. Right now, we have a transparency problem and we have an accountability problem with every single dollar that we are spending from a governmental perspective. Zero-based budgeting creates transparency, it creates accountability, and it allows us to go after the spend first. Then I think once you identify the spending issues, then you can identify how much you can lower and how perhaps you could shift the taxes from one area to another so that your property can be free and clear of that liability.
Yeah, interesting. What is the so legislative session is actually looking through property taxes now. They're wanting to put a 2% cap on it. I understand restricting property taxes, but what would a pathway look like to get rid of property taxes and while having a healthy budget and healthy revenue for the state to do its work as governor and as work as the government is needed in Iowa?
Yeah. So let's assume that we have attacked the spend, and we've identified how to lower our expenses first, and we've crammed those expenses down. Another area I want to explore to continue to cram expenses down is shared service models. I'm not talking about over regionalizing, but my department within the state, we centralized parts of finance, we centralized HR, we centralized parts of procurement, which created economies of scale that allowed us to not have to hire more people to do the job that we were doing. We had a robust internal shared service program. So if you can look at how to decrease expenses, because you have to decrease expenses if you're going to be decreasing your property tax. Otherwise, from a business perspective, you get rid of your revenue, but you continue to grow your expenses, you're going to be toast. And from a budget perspective, like you're saying, you have a major problem. So assuming the spend has been ground down to a nub, assume you've looked for every single area of efficiency from an operational perspective, shared service models, PEO type models. What you need to do then is look for areas to plus up revenue to make sure that your essential services are funded. That could come through a local sales tax, some sort of transfer, some sort of consumption tax at the end of the day that isn't, you're not overtaxing, but you're just replacing that revenue from a different source. The governor can't sign a deficit budget bill, and we can't print money. So if we're going to reduce property taxes, again, we've got to attack the expense. We've got to create efficiencies through what I would call shared service models, and then look for ways to plus up revenue to make sure, again, that essential services are funded within your communities.
Yeah. What other candidates that you're facing, what are they doing or what are they running on that makes you just more motivated to run for governor?
Yeah, so from the Democrat side, I jumped in this race to beat the Democrat candidate. The Democrat candidate right now, his name's Rob Sand. He is the auditor of the state of Iowa. He has been running for governor for 7 years. Quite literally, he's been playing politics in his position for 7 years. And I know that because 5 of those 7 years, I was tasked to work with him. He would not show up for meetings. He would play politics with some of the most important financial decisions the state was making. And he used it as a political sort of spiel so that ultimately now he is launching his campaign for governor. It's egregious, and we need to keep him out of office. So number one, he would say that the heartbeat bill in the state of Iowa has gone too far. Yeah. And he would say, I will do everything I can to roll that back. On another end, he would say school choice. The fact that now Iowa has the ability to use its state tax dollars, parents, to move their kids into a private or independent school if they so choose. He will say, I'm going to decimate that program. I'm not going to allow that program to exist. So if you look at the state of Virginia, I don't even know what her name is, but the supposed moderate candidate for governor gets elected in and is now implementing some of the most liberal policies that the entire country will ever see. Yeah. And Virginia will become Illinois. Virginia will be like Minneapolis, like California, like New York City. And I am doing everything I can to keep Iowa from becoming Minneapolis, to keep it from becoming Illinois. And so that is my main focus, is to keep Rob Sand out of office and continue to pursue the freedom and the culture that the state of Iowa currently has.
And, as this relates to, it seems like the Republicans in November, at least seems like they're on their heels with the November elections. Like I said, I come from Texas. There's this district in the Dallas-Fort Worth area where my friend Leah was running, and she lost by 17. Trump won this district by 17 points, and she lost to a Democrat, and I think outspent him significantly.
Yep.
So, that doesn't mean everything's going to go that way, but it's like a 17-point victory for Trump. And then all of a sudden, this special election, which is what it was, so it's different, a little different, special election, our Republican candidate, who was endorsed by Trump, lost this district to a Democrat. So at minimum, we should be saying, okay, maybe something's wrong here. Maybe we're doing something wrong. How are you going to, I guess, really honestly, like energize not just the base, but the kind of the Trump base, which is even broader than the Republican base?
No, absolutely. That's a great question. And to that point, there have been in the state of Iowa at least 3 special elections that were red, conservative, Republican seats that in a special election have been flipped to blue. So the alarm bells are ringing here in the state of Iowa. So what we need, exactly to your point, is a candidate that can come in and energize, to your point, not just the base. So my base and my lane is the evangelical Christian conservative lane. I mean, that's just kind of how I'm known. But I've also got 18 years as a business person. So what I need to do is to excite not the evangelical Christian conservative, not just them, but also the business base, also the MAGA crowd, also the Maha crowd, also the young people. And so what we are doing, and the beauty, I believe, of my background in this candidacy is I have the ability to relate to the Christian conservatives, to the business community, to the MAGA crowd, to the Maha crowd, to the young people. I've worked with young people in my past. And so the message that I am cascading across the state of Iowa resonates with several different pockets within the Republican Party. The Republican Party in the state of Iowa and largely across the country is frayed. And so we need a candidate that can pull those groups together, energize them, and get them off their couches, get them to wake up their neighbors, wake up their communities. Because if we sit back and if we don't get out to the polls and vote, the president's not on the ballot this year, obviously. Yep. So we need people energized. And in my candidacy, the message we're providing is energizing all of those groups right now. And so when we get through the primary and we go full bore to take on Rob Sand, it's going to take every single one of those frayed parties. We got to come together, and every single person has to get out and vote November 4th to ensure that we protect the state here.
Yeah. This is horrible. I forget your governor's last name.
Kim Reynolds, Governor Kim Reynolds. Yep.
Governor Reynolds. Followed her, and I'd say, I don't know, out of a 10, maybe a 7 out of 10, or maybe 7.5 out of 10 or something. How much did she win her first election by?
Yeah.
Was it close? And then how much did she win her second?
Yeah. So the first election that she won by 2%. So a Democrat came in, very wealthy, old businessman. On the Democrat side, and she won that by 2%. I want to say it was 2%, something like that, very thin margin. Yeah. When she ran again, I forget what the exact percentage was, but she dominated. It wasn't even close. And I think they called the race before she even got to the victory party. It was one of those deals. But now, frankly, this is the first open gubernatorial seat in 16 years from a primary perspective. So this is an anomaly. And that is why I believe the entire nation is watching the Iowa race to see if the Democrats can come through in this type of an election cycle and this type of a political atmosphere and flip Iowa from red to blue. And that is exactly why I jumped in this race, is to keep that from happening.
Yeah. Adam, how can people follow you? What website you like them to check out? That kind of thing.
No, absolutely. Thank you. AdamSteen.com, STEEN, AdamSteen.com. We're on all the socials, so check out the socials on there. Follow us on Facebook. If folks feel like donating and jumping into the cause, obviously we've got links there too, but AdamSteen.com is the single point to head to, and check out our socials. We're in this to win this. We're not looking back, and Iowa is going to be a shining light on a hill that the rest of the country can look at and say, those guys did a great job.
Adam, thanks for coming on CrossPolitic. Real quick before you leave, just folks, just as you guys listen to this interview, like I said, actually Steve Dace introduced me to Adam probably I don't know, 5 months ago or something like that. And kind of gave me the heads up. I think even before Adam announced, he gave me a heads up that you're going to announce. And so I've watched basically Adam before he announced into now. Steve is supporting his campaign, helping his campaign, doing some live appearances with Adam in Iowa. And it's so I'm, based on what I've known on Adam, I've told others to support him. I would recommend, especially you guys know, one of the best ways to support Adam is prayer and money. Those are the two things that just really help his campaign. So if you are also a listener in Iowa and want to get connected to his campaign, reach out. Help. These elections aren't won by just a guy named Adam. They're won by everyone who kind of gets out and helps. So be doing what you can to try to help Adam get across the line. Adam, I really appreciate your time on CrossPolitic. Thank you for joining us, man.
Gabe, thank you. I appreciate that. It was an honor.
Okay. Lord bless you. Thank you for tuning in to CrossPolitic. Make sure you share the show, especially if you don't live in Iowa, but you got friends in Iowa. Share this interview with them and help them to kind of get to know Adam and maybe kind of get involved in the race. I mean, this is a way open race in Iowa. Like Adam was pointing out, it really is a open race. The primaries are happening. I forgot to ask Adam on the date about the primaries, but the primaries are happening soon. I believe, I don't know, March, April, something like that. You can Google it and check it out. The primary dates are soon. So get in and help Adam. Share this with your friends in Iowa and, do whatever you can to kind of help your friends in Iowa see Adam through to victory. So thank you for joining CrossPolitic One-on-One, and we'll see you guys next week.